I'm curious, Mark, because your sons are grown, almost grown, but with a new schedule, some people aren't familiar with new schedules, but there's like a early morning where you go in at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then the general day schedule where you're on like 9 to 6 or something, and then an evening schedule when you're there from 3 to 11 or later, midnight.
Mhm.
But how did you find work-life balance as somebody who was married with kids when you either miss the mornings or miss the evenings and
Mhm.
also like you have to sleep? So like how did you do that?
Yeah, early in my career, when I was over in Spokane, I was a reporter at KXLY, and I started in radio and then transitioned into TV. So I was reporting for TV, and my news director came to me and she said, "Hey, we have an opportunity for a weekend anchor position." And it was a big opportunity. And I told this story on the Contributors Corner episode with Dr. James. But she came to me and she said, "Hey, this is a great opportunity. You want to get into anchoring? We have this weekend position open." And I thought about it and came back the next day and said, "Well, my wife works as a school teacher Monday through Friday. And if I take this weekend job, we're really not going to see each other." And I said, I just can't take the job. And she really was like shocked, because in television there's so much competition for these jobs. And she said, "This is probably going to slow your career way down if you make decisions like that." And I'm like, "That's okay." And so about 3 or 4 months later, a morning anchor job came open at the same station. And she came back to me and she said, "We've got a weekday anchor position. It's yours if you want it." And I took that position. And it made me realize, and when I would go back for years to Washington State University and talk to broadcasting students, I would tell that story because I said, if you don't draw the boundaries, even when you're in your 20s, those boundaries will get drawn by other people and you'll be bound by those. And so I said, figure out what's really important in your life and have the courage. It's scary to tell your boss no, but have the courage to say no to the things that are going to impair that quality of life and the things that are important to you. So that was kind of my early experience kind of told me that, the universe rewarded my decision to spend time with my wife. And that was really cool. But beyond that, Libby, you talked about the crazy schedules, and it really is a sacrifice. You're either getting up in the middle of the night and anchoring a morning show, or you're going to work mid afternoon and you're not home until midnight. And so when I look back, I realized that my wife had to do a lot of the work to get the kids off in the morning or to get the homework done in the evening and prepare dinner all by herself. And it's, I get a little emotional sometimes when I think about this because I missed a lot. I missed a lot. And I'm really grateful that my wife is the amazing woman that she is, that she picked up a lot of slack. And that's an industry where you just can't dictate your schedule. You either have to do a morning show or evening shows. And so there's a cost. But I think the flip side, it was an amazing career, an amazing experience. And I think the higher you go up the food chain in news, the more that management knows they have to respect your private time and your time away because they don't want a burned out, crabby guy on the news. And so I think that there really was a nice balance in terms of the amount of vacation and, adequate time away to spend time with family. Alon.
I thought Libby had mentioned something super important about culture. And it reminded me, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine last night who works for a major tech company in the Seattle area. And we were having a conversation about how they lied to him when he applied for the job, promising him work-life balance. And so I think for us, we live in a really redeemed workspace where unlimited PTO, or for us OTA, really means what it says. A salary means what it says. And I think for a big reason why any of us are doing this is because so many of our peers and people that we know experienced incredibly unredeemed workplaces where a salary, which should mean you have the ability to work when you want to work, it means for a lot of people that you're only paid for 40 hours, but the expectation, like Tamar said, is that you work 60. Or unlimited PTO means you're going to take less PTO statistically. They know that, and they don't have to pay you out for any accrued PTO when you decide to leave.
Yes.
So I think there's like these cultural things that have to come along with the benefits that are provided, because otherwise it feels so unredeemed that it just feels culturally normal for the companies you're applying to lie to you about what their benefits really are, because the culture isn't there to back it up. And like on that note, the idea of the 40-hour work week isn't designed for an individual or a family living life that both people need to work. The reality of what we live in economically now is that a 2-income household, I mean, I live a DINK lifestyle, a double income, no kids lifestyle. And it's a huge, I mean, I live in a redeemed workspace, and it is a huge deterrent financially not to be pushing forward for kids right now, because we both have to work and childcare is expensive and all these other things. And so I don't think culturally, societally, a 40-hour work week is designed for the success of people like Libby, who value their career, but also value being a mom and a parent and want to have that balance for sure. So I don't think societally we're designed for that. And then the other cultural pressure is we still want to hit those milestones. I'm 30, still want to have the wedding, and I still wanted to buy a house, and I do want to have kids. So I want to be able to do all those things. So I have to work in the 40-hour work week because that's what the culture is and the society is. And fortunately for me, I'm lucky enough to work somewhere where my OTA is real, my salary is real, like all of those things really mean what they say. So those were just the thoughts I was thinking as Libby was bringing up the culture of places, because I think that's a huge piece that we're still missing for all these companies that are offering benefits, right?
That's really insightful, Elan. And one of the things that our boss, Dan Rogers, will say is if you want to know what someone believes, watch their actions. And I think the same can be said for a company. The fact that he shuts our company down for 2 weeks at the end of June and 2 weeks at the end of December, and there's no work. I mean, that says a lot. A 4-day work week says a lot. Unlimited OTA says a lot. So I think you can learn a lot about a company. And we just had a guest on the Beats Working podcast who spent his life in software startups, and he talked about the Candyland companies, the Googles and the Microsofts and the Zillows and the Amazons. One of the reasons that tech companies provide all the goodies for their employees is they don't want them to leave the office. So they provide food, they provide snacks, they provide entertainment, ping pong tables. And I mean, that's a deliberate move on their part, because they know that if they provide all that stuff, they're going to get more work. And that's a meat grinder in a lot of those industries, the big tech companies.
And doesn't that feel inauthentic? I mean, on the surface, on paper, it looks so incredible that you've got this ping pong table and kegs in the break room, right? But when I think people really read that as being, oh, you're trying to trick me,
Tamar.
Well, and one of the other things I've learned over the years is that we stop becoming productive after a certain amount of time. I mean, it's not uncommon for me to work 60, 70 hours a week previously, thinking that if I worked more, and also the employer pushing you to work more, you would get more done. But you don't, right? And I used to think, okay, well, if I work lots, then that, my value, I'm worth more. But it's not true, because you're just not productive after a certain amount of time. You're tired, you feel lethargic, you want to go home, you want to do all these other things. And I think it's important to be intentional, even if you love what you do, which has tended to be a problem for me over the last, I would say, 5 years, is I love what I do. I could do it all day. I mean, I could sit and create all evening if I chose to, but I need to fill my cup up so that I can actually continue to be creative, to continue to do my best work. And if I push myself too hard and then I experience burnout, usually I'm well in the burnout and it's too late. So I think there is something to be said about working, a certain amount of time so that you can still remain productive and not overdoing it.